Are you firing on all cylinders? Are you in the zone? Do you feel superhuman? Do you know your life's purpose? And are you actively living your most meaningful and fulfilling life right now? If you answered no, or I'm not sure, then stick around. You're going to love today's conversation. Hello and welcome to the Over 50 Health and Wellness Show. I'm your host, Kevin English. I'm the founder of the Silver Edge, and our mission is to help you build and maintain a lean, healthy body that you love for the rest of your life, so you can show up in the second half of your life as the healthiest, strongest, most vital version of yourself. We have a great show for you today. Dr. Mike Van Thielen is here, and he's going to help you optimize your body, your mind, and your life. But before we get to that, I want to let you know that this episode is brought to you by Ned. Ned makes the world's best natural remedies, and they're best known for their line of full-spectrum CBD products, which are beyond organic. Their hemp is actually biodynamically grown just for them. But with the wild rise in the popularity of CBD products these days, there are tons of options out there in the marketplace. But if you want to be 110% sure that you're getting only the finest available CBD, then check these guys out. Now, that being said, they also have a full line of sleep support products, and I am madly in love with their magnesium product. It's called Mellow. It helps me de-stress and optimizes my sleep, and it's a part of my pre-bed routine every single night. If you're interested in learning more, head over to helloned.com, and because you're a listener of this show, you can save 15% off your first order when you use the coupon code SILVEREDGE at checkout. That's helloned.com, and the coupon code is SILVEREDGE, all run together, no spaces. Okay, enough of that. Let's get on with today's show. My guest today is Dr. Mike Van Thielen. Dr. Mike is a best-selling author, entrepreneur, and philanthropist with over 3 decades experience as an expert in health optimization, regenerative medicine, nutrition and supplementation, biohacking, and mentoring and coaching people to achieve their highest levels of performance. Join us today as Dr. Mike helps us optimize our bodies, our minds, and our lives to reach our maximum potential. I started our interview today by asking Dr. Mike about his athletic background. I want to dig in and talk about finding our purpose and meaning in our life and discovering our superpower and unleashing it on the world. But before we get there, let's back up and learn a little bit about you. I understand you're quite the athlete. Were you always athletic? What were you like as a kid?
Yeah, I kind of was as a kid in elementary school growing up in Belgium, by the way. I was on a soccer team, basketball team. I was the fastest runner in the class, but I got beaten in swimming because one of my best friends was part of the local swim team. And apparently I was a sore loser, and my solution was I became part of the swim team too. And that's how I found my passion for swimming. So today I still joke about that swimming is actually my worst sport.
All right. So the audience that doesn't know, you're saying swimming is your worst sport, but you went on to excel in swimming. Talk a little bit about where you went with swimming.
Yes, in Belgium, I had many age group titles and records in my teens and 20s. And then at age 24, I stopped swimming for about 22 years, picked it back up at age 46, and in 2019, swam a world record, masters record, in the 45 plus. But now I'm 51, so I'm able to be interviewed by you in the Over 50 Health and Wellness podcast, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, welcome to the club. Fantastic. And you're doing a great job representing that strong, healthy avatar that we talk about so much on this show. Now, if I'm not mistaken, you've been involved in swimming. You mentioned that you had taken a hiatus there, but you've actually done some coaching. Haven't you coached some Olympic teams as well?
Yeah, I've coached national teams, but over the last decade, I've helped top athletes in all kinds of sports with biohacking, the mind, visualization, regenerative medicine, and those types of things.
Okay, fantastic. And that sets the stage very nicely then for what I really want to talk to you about. We talked about at the top of this show that you are a biohacking expert. You are all about becoming superhuman. You've got this IZOD method that you talk about. You've got quite the career here. And I want to start unpacking some of this. But before we get to some of the more specific mindset and purpose-driven things, you also talk a good bit about health freedom. Can you talk about what you mean when you talk about health freedom?
Yes, sure. I've been an advocate for that a long time, and I always try to promote it and be on the forefront. What it basically means is that I'm obviously not a proponent of our current medical system. I've seen it at firsthand because I came here in 1997 as a physical therapist from Belgium. I saved $400, packed my backpack, and came here to live the American dream, and ended up working in a hospital. And I have many stories, but basically our current medical system doesn't have the patient at its best interest. Let's put it that way, and let's keep it nice. So since then, I've been really people that there is another way, that we don't have to listen to the doctor. We don't necessarily have to go to the hospital, that we can take control of our own health, and that there are other tools out there besides medicine, injections, and surgeries, because that's the only three tools conventional medicine has in the toolbox usually. There's another 1,000 tools outside of that. And so when your regular doctors say, oh, we can't help you, that means he or she can help you, but it doesn't mean there's not any help out there. So it's about awakening the people out there, creating some awareness that we don't have to blame our doctors or the FDA or the big pharma or the fake news out there. It's time that we take responsibility for our own health and for the health of our loved ones. And so if you're not in the health field, there's many functional medicine doctors, coaches like yourself and myself out there that can guide you in that right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Love all of that. We've talked a lot about modern healthcare and sick care, and how seems like Western medicine is very, very good for acute illness or injury, things of that nature. We excel at that, right? We lead the world in that, perhaps. But when it comes to more of these lifestyle diseases, the metabolic dysfunctions, dysregulation type things, clearly our medical system fails there. Now, you had mentioned there's a lot of other tools in the toolbox. You're a big advocate for taking control of your own health. What are some of those tools then in that toolbox that we might be able to access?
Well, there's so many and new ones every day, right? So obviously we're talking about upgrading diet. So the diet that you and I recommend is probably totally different than the food pyramid that the American Heart Association and stuff put up, right? We talk about, supplements. People always ask me, are supplements necessary? Yes, we are a very simple organism that has been put into this very high-tech driven society. We don't live in pristine areas anymore, so we are subject to far more stresses. 14,000 digital messages per day. It's an onslaught. Pollution, environmental toxins, electromagnetic frequencies and radiation, and the list goes on. So even if we eat exclusively wholesome organic foods, we still need high quality supplements as an insurance policy, basically. So besides diet and supplements, we talk about biohacking, which basically means we want to upgrade not only our body, but also our mind and our life, because most people forget about the mind and life part, right? And upgrading, today we can do that objectively. We can objectively reverse our biological age. We can measure and set a baseline and then implement certain strategies or compounds or tips or technologies, and then measure and see how effective they were in reversing our biological age. But in doing that, there are, in my book and the way I approach my clients, there are 3 steps when we talk about the health components. And unfortunately, as you know, most people fall in the first category. It's people that need to regain control of their health. They are in pain, or they have a medical diagnosis or a medical condition. And so the first step is we need to eradicate that and get them back to what we call quote unquote normal. Step number 2 is now we need to optimize our health. So we need to implement lifestyle modifications, simple ones, upgrading your diet, your exercise, your movement, and those types of things, so you can become fit, strong, and vital again, and start to get in control of your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. And then step number 3 is, once you're in optimal health, that would be the ideal foundation to maximize the benefits of biohacking strategies, which is upgrading everything to an extent we actually are reversing our biological age. with the goal that 100 will be the new 30.
Yeah, fantastic. I love all of that. So let's unpack a little bit of that. So I know you've got these three steps, right? You said regain control of our health, right? And we talked a little bit about that a minute ago. Then we're going to, from there, once we've accomplished that, we want to optimize our health. And then we want to do this next level, this becoming superhuman. But going back to regaining control of your health, I know you talk about single cause of disease and you have these 5 clean living principles. Can we unpack a little bit of that before we go forward? So as we're just setting this baseline, this foundation, right?
Yes.
Of regaining control, what are we talking about there?
Well, health is actually pretty simple, but we have to make it complicated if the authorities want to make money on us, right? But it's actually pretty simple because, I believe there's only one cause of all disease, and it's called toxemia. Toxemia literally means toxins in the blood. But into a little bit more detail, what it means is that on a daily basis, as part of living, as part of our metabolism, our body obviously is producing waste products. But in a healthy body, in a healthy organism, those waste products are eliminated. The bowels, the kidneys, the skin, etc. So no harm is done. However, if we are exposed to or ingest far more toxins than our body possibly can eliminate, then we have an accumulation of toxins in our blood and in the body, and that's what we call toxemia. Now, toxemia causes 2 things in our body. Number one, it causes free radical damage because these toxins are stealing an electron from a healthy atom, and that healthy atom now becomes unstable, and that's what we label a free radical, which can cause damage on a cellular level, even a DNA level. The second thing that these toxins cause in our body is a constant state of emergency. And in conventional medicine, we label that as systemic inflammation. And even conventional medicine now agrees that over 90% of all disease is directly related to this systemic inflammation, right? So that's why I say toxemia is the cause of all disease. Now, how do we then prevent all disease? Well, theoretically, it's simple. We need to keep toxemia in check, right? So how do we do that? Well, number one, we're going to try to eliminate or mitigate as much as possible the ingestion and exposure to toxins, which means, our diet, the things that we drink, our environmental pollutants, our air, our water, our electromagnetic radiation, etc. We need to consciously make an effort to limit the exposure to those, while simultaneously increasing the nutrients that fight free radical damage, repair DNA, and fight systemic inflammation. And if we can do those simultaneously and keep toxemia in check, we will be free of all disease.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm tracking. So I've not heard that term toxemia before, and I like the way you lay that out. It really simplifies what, like you said earlier, we love to make things more complicated than they are, but we do live in this very toxic environment, right? And we can start with our food supply, and even taking out all of the ultra processed crap that's just all around us now, right? And just very low in nutrients, high in calories typically is what most of that stuff is. But also just our whole foods, a lot of the plants that we're eating, because we don't practice regenerative farming anymore. We're more into these big agricultural farming and going back to, because money, basically finance, right? And so we've stripped all the nutrients out of these soils so that we can turn over crops much quicker. So even those organic spinaches that you're getting in your organic supermarket are probably grown in Central California on a great big agricultural. It's not probably what you're thinking.
Yeah, correct.
Some nice grandma going out back and clipping your spinach for you. And so it's just not as nutrient dense as it used to be. And then we move back into our homes, right? So our water's got fluoride and has a bunch of other nasty things in it. And then we walk into our kitchen and there's all the plastics and the Teflons. And we walk into our bathroom and that's just basically isn't a chemical mess in there, right? Yep. And then we walk into our laundry room and there's just all these toxins around that we're not really aware of because they're convenient and they're just there, right? We take them for granted. And probably any single one of those wouldn't be horrific in and of itself, right? But I think what you're saying is this combination, we're just getting this toxic load that's increasing and increasing. And you're saying, hey, this is accumulating in your body. And if you can't detoxify the amount, if you don't have a way of dealing with the amount coming in, then you're not going to have this baseline health. Is that a fair way of
Yeah,
saying
that's
that?
correct. And it's not necessarily detoxifying and dealing with it. The step that becomes before that is trying to avoid as many as you can so we don't have to deal with
Right.
them, right? How to
Right.
mitigate it.
Because you're not going to detox all of that, right?
And
You're just not
so,
built for
no,
that.
you cannot prevent all of it, right? But we need to be aware that we don't live in a pristine area. And like you said, you named it, all the things around it, people are not aware of. Yes, they're convenient, but they cause a health hazard. So how do we can replace our cleaning products, cosmetic products with health-freer alternatives? How can we shield ourselves from the electromagnetic frequencies and radiation, avoiding smart appliances, plugging in our appliances and our laptops? What can we do with our iPhones and smart devices to reduce the radiation from those? So there's a list of hundreds and hundreds of things that don't cost anything, but that we can put in place consciously to at least drastically reduce or mitigate most of that toxic radiation. And so that's the first step. And then, of course, like I said, we need to then start be conscious about how do we then mitigate the toxins that did come in. And that's about healthy food, healthy supplements, and also supplements that are things that repair your DNA. So even if your DNA gets damaged, we have an innate repair DNA repair system. In most of us, it doesn't work because that system needs fuel. And if we don't have the fuel, it can't work. So in this case, the fuel for our DNA repair system is NAD+. So then the question becomes, how do we make sure there's a sufficient supply of NAD+ in our body? Of course, we can get NAD+ supplements, we can get IVs, but there's other ways and means to stimulate NAD+ in our body. So, and then it keeps going on and on and on. So we gotta reduce the exposure and the intake while increasing the intake of nutrients that deal with all these problems, detoxifying, repairing DNA, reducing free radical damage, and reducing systemic inflammation. I had a good podcast yesterday talking about antioxidants because we all still are a little bit basic there, where we obviously need to eat our fruits and vegetables or take the supplements of our vitamin C and D and our glutathione and our selenium and our zinc, and that's great. But what most people don't realize is that those nutrients are charged and they are unable to enter the cell membrane, so they really can't help repair the DNA or the oxidative damage within the cells. So then we need to look at, okay, how can we escalate or exponentially improve the antioxidant power in our body to neutralize those exponentially increasing free radicals when they cascade, right? And so the key there is NADPH. NADPH is the battery of our cells. It's like an electron reservoir. So again, if you know what antioxidants do, they donate an electron to the free radical to stabilize that free radical again. But once an antioxidant donates the electron, there's nothing else they can do. They become useless. But what if we had an electron reservoir that continues to feed our same antioxidants with more electrons so they can neutralize more free radicals? And that's where NADPH comes in. And so we can do many things to keep our NADPH levels high in our body and keep the electron reservoir feeding antioxidants to neutralize free radicals. So many things we can do there.
Okay, so I want to summarize before we move on. So for folks listening, because we covered a lot there in a short amount of time. So if you're looking to decrease that toxic load, that's doing things like just in your household, cleaning up, just do your research, try and decrease the toxic load that you're exposing your body to. Certainly we can clean up our diet, right? We kind of started there. Whole foods are going to be your friend there, trying to avoid as much of the ultra-processed crap as possible. But then you talked a good bit about NAD, NADPH, and you mentioned supplementation in there several times. When you say supplementation, specifically, what are you talking about in this context, right? In the sort of decreasing your toxicity and increasing your health.
First of all, I like to mention that I get this question almost every day. It's like, do we really need supplements? Because people say, I live healthy, I eat exclusively organic, wholesome foods, and you mentioned it with your agriculture, where those, where that food comes from. But people need to realize that if you don't have your hydroponics or aquaponics or organic own garden where you can cut it off and within a minute eat it later, you are losing a lot of nutrients. So there's 3 reasons why today, even if you eat exclusively wholesome organic foods, you still need high quality supplements. Reason number 1, there's a time that lapses between harvest and consumption. All right. And during that time, many essential nutrients are lost. A good example is, for example, if you store asparagus for 2 weeks, 90% of the vitamin C is gone. If you pick an apple from a branch, 30 minutes later, 50% of the enzymes are dead, right? So I'm encouraging everybody to eat wholesome organic foods, but realize many of the nutrients are lost, right? So we need high quality supplements. Number two, which you mentioned, is, our body needs 70 to 90 minerals to function optimally. And after World War II, they started to use commercial fertilizers, NPK fertilizers. That's only three minerals, N, P, and K. So we need 70, 90. So our soil is deprived of all the minerals and essential nutrients. And if the soil's deprived, our vegetables and fruits will be deprived. And number three, we don't live in pristine areas anymore. So we have a much bigger onslaught of toxins, as we discussed, which means is we got to compensate with more than just wholesome foods. We just, the fact that we live in this environment, we need those high quality supplements for that reason. And so based on what stage of health you are, there obviously are different supplements that you need. But when it comes to NAD plus and NADPH, which are there to feed electrons to antioxidants, to neutralize free radicals, or to repair your DNA, you obviously can supplement with NAD plus or get regular infusions. But there's also other things that you can do. For example, niacin and tryptophan are precursors to NAD plus. Not eating after 5, 6 p.m. or late in the evening will exhaust your reserves of NAD plus and NADPH. So that's important. Electromagnetic radiation depletes your reserves of NAD plus and NADPH. So you need to do everything you can to avoid exposure to those electromagnetic fields in and outside of your house. I did have a best-selling book in 2022, EMR, The Invisible Thread. It's available on Amazon, which is a practical guide, gives you hundreds and hundreds of things that you can do at no cost in and around your house to limit that exposure. Hydrogen, whether it's the tablets or whether you have a hydrogen gas unit in your house, which I have, so all the water I drink is hydrogen gas infused. Hydrogen will preserve your NADPH in your body and gives your body a lot of those electrons that you will then donate to the antioxidants to neutralize those harmful free radicals. So yes, we need supplements, but based in the stage of health you are and based on what you need to accomplish, we would recommend certain supplements.
Okay, thanks for diving in on that. And that's a lot of great tips there. And folks, we're going to talk probably about several of your books here, and we will throw all of those resources into the show notes so everybody can find that. I'll have the links to the books, all your websites, social media, all that good stuff. So folks don't worry about writing that down now. You can go there and get that. All right. So obviously this is a pretty complex, nuanced conversation we're having, right? This is why I love podcasts. It can be a long form conversation as opposed to what you just mentioned right there be really, really hard to put in a tweet or a Facebook post or et cetera, right? So, and you mentioned that the right supplement for an individual might depend, and certainly would depend, on where they are, right? So that's a very interesting take on supplementation, because obviously the supplement market here in the US it's nuts, right? It's unregulated. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and a lot of what's out there is crap. But correct. The way you're talking about it is kind of shoring up where we're deficient, and that certainly makes sense to me. All right, let's say we've got our theoretical listener who's on board. They've taken this advice. They've cleaned some things up. They've done some supplementing, and they're aware now of their health. They've regained control of their health. Now they're ready to take that next step and optimize their health. What are we talking about there? What's the next level after we start to just regain control of our health?
Yeah, let's say you got rid of your pains, or you got rid of your diagnosis of type 2 diabetes, whatever it is, and you're back to quote unquote normal. Now we need to optimize. So we don't just want to be normal and coming home from work and feeling tired and plumping in the couch and watching TV. No, we want to be full of energy. We want to be vital. We want to be powerful. We want to be fit, right? So now we got to incorporate lifestyle modifications that bring you to that next level. So that's your 50 plus year old that looks like a 35-year-old physically, defined muscles, muscle tone, not fatigued, able to go out for a bike or a run, or maybe even still to go out and go ski and those types of things. So that's what we mean with optimal health. It's not your chronological age, it's your functional age, it's your lifespan. It's what can I do still, functional wise. So we're gonna just go to that next level and go to an optimal level. Because even many times in conventional medicine, when we look at blood tests, we always have those ranges. And I always smile when people say, "Oh, I'm normal." Well, if you fall in the range, you're almost dead, but people don't realize that, because those ranges were developed for our soldiers in World War II to make sure we gave them just enough food to stay alive. It's called rationing, right? So if you fall in those ranges, you're barely alive. So when it comes to optimal health, we got to go, when it comes to the good nutrients, we got to go way above that, right? We got to have optimal readings of everything. And that's also where the mind starts playing in, because in the first step, we're trying to get your physical body back to where it belongs, optimal weight, optimal body composition, no pain, no disease, disease-free. Now here, yes, we want to get to a higher level physically, but we got to start also thinking mental, right? Focus, productivity, upgrading your purpose of life, being in control of your life, and that what makes people passionate and excited. A good example is over the pandemic and even post-pandemic, a company asked me to do, or help them at least for a while, with doing pre-screening calls for medical marijuana. And it actually was interesting because it amazed me how many people are suffering from anxiety and depression and PTSD. And there's worry and there's fear and there's panic attacks. And yes, there's drugs and supplements and therapies out there. But what I figured out is, if most of those people, of course, they're anxious and stressed because they don't know what tomorrow brings. They don't know what next week brings, because life's thrown at them. Their boss throws extra stuff at them. The kids got to go to the soccer field. The wife is going like this, or the husband's going like this. And so it's this like putting out fires day in, day out. Of course, you're going to be stressed and depressed and worried and uncertain. And that develops in those mental conditions. But what if we just stop the rat race and figure out what really your purpose in life is, and where you have gone in the wrong path, and kind of redirect you on where your superpowers lie and how to unleash those superpowers. Because once you really have passion and fire in your body or in your stomach on what you're going to be doing, you're going to wake up in the morning wanting to get things done. And most of us, unfortunately, when they get up in the morning, they are sighing and they're not looking forward to the day. And that's what causes, in my opinion, most of those mental conditions and diseases. So in order to eradicate those and not put a band-aid on those symptoms, it's like, let's go a little bit deeper and let's see how your life looks like and why are you depressed and worried and fearful. And once we define that purpose in life, which sometimes it's done pretty quickly with a few simple exercises or a few questions, we now need to start to take control of our life, because most people, again, are not in control. So we need to take control of our agenda, of our calendar. We need to know what happens tomorrow, next week, next month. We need to put strategies in place to maximize focus, productivity, free up valuable time, avoid procrastination, avoid fidgeting. Most of us now are in a dopamine overload because of social media. Of course, the bad diets and the sugary drinks, but social media is addictive because we get the dopamine squirt. And if we're in a dopamine overload, that means there's an imbalance of our intelligence hormones, and therefore we get into a brain fog and we cannot stay focused. We cannot pay attention to anything for longer. The average now is 6 seconds. So
yes, that's not hard to believe. Yeah,
we need to reverse that and get in control of our life. And again, it's pretty simple. It's about tips and strategies that we put in place. Power routines. I just talked this morning about power routines. I have a morning power routine, evening power routine, and I have a biohacking power routine. And so we need routines in our life that moves us forward, that serves our dreams and our goals and our purpose. And so the more control we get over our own life, the more clarity we create. And clarity omits stress. It's that simple. So that's step number one of the ISOT method. It's finding your purpose and taking control of your life. It's almost like you want to script your life to a certain extent.
I love all of that. And when we talk about finding your purpose and executing on that purpose, right? That's when you change from that condition that you described, where people they get up and they kind of dread Mondays. Let's take Mondays. I love Monday mornings. Yeah. I'm ready to attack. I love every morning actually, but I wasn't always that way. In fact, I lived most of my adult life dreading Monday mornings.
Yes.
Like, oh God, because I was just in that grind, and I was exactly like you described, right? It's just life was controlling me, and I felt like a victim there at this subconscious level, but it was my baseline. I didn't know what I didn't know. I
Yeah.
didn't know that life was better. I didn't realize I didn't understand my purpose. I didn't know my purpose, and let alone was actually out executing on my purpose. And I think that gets missed a lot just because we live in this busy culture where busy is, we put that on a pedestal. If you're busy, and there's just so many distractions. Of course, the social media, like you mentioned, it's really difficult. And I would be so bold as to say that most of the people that I meet and I connect with, you can almost tell whether they understand what their purpose in life is or not. I would believe that the majority of people in our age bracket are not purpose driven. They don't understand their true purpose, why they're here, and they're not living that life, right? Now, you had mentioned a couple of things, right? You said there's some tips and hacks and ways that you can help people to understand there. And you mentioned some power routines, which I do want to come back to. But you had briefly said that's a part, this is the first part of my IZOD method, which is your in the zone on demand. So talk a little bit about what you mean when you say in the zone, and how does one, because I think most of us can probably say, oh, in the zone. Yeah, no, I understand that. We've all had glimpses of that at least. But what do you mean by in the zone, and how do we tap into that on demand?
Yes, and that's the whole method, and it's a 3-step method because what I found is that most people, again, they can't focus, they have no attention span, and everybody has experienced, as you said, being in the zone, but it was merely by chance or accident. It's like, oh my God, I won this race, or oh my
Yeah.
God, I did this project and it's flawless, or oh my God, I wrote this piece of music and it's like, it's great. So we have experienced it, but by accident. So the question is, what if we would be able to reproduce that state of mind, being in the zone on demand whenever we wanted to? And what would your life look like if you could be in the zone on demand? You would be far more productive, getting things done and getting to your goals and dreams much, much faster without all those distractions, right? And so that's in the zone on demand. And yeah, this is the latest book that's now available. That's what it's called, In the Zone on Demand. Optimize productivity, focus, free up valuable time, live stress-free, and upgrade the body and the mind. So it's about mastering that method. But I had to go starting with purpose of life, because if you're not passionate about what you're doing, you're not going to perform at your highest potential. You're not going to win because somebody else is passionate about it and is going to go, the extra step. So you really got to know your purpose in life and feel that passion and fire. That's step number 1. Then we got to take control of our life, which is part of step number 1. Step number 2 is actually very simple, but nobody ever does it, even in business. You need a plan or a strategy, right? And a plan doesn't necessarily mean you need to know the how-tos or the details. You simply need to put the what's in the business format template. What it is I want, what do I want to accomplish? Because the how-tos, they will fall in place as you move along, right? Now, a critical part to me of that second part, which is the plan or the strategy, is we need to start identifying the people that you need on what I call your team of experts. The question is, who do you need to perform at your highest potential? Because we've all been told in the past that you need to work on your weaknesses, and I 110% disagree with that. We need to identify our strength and continue to work on our strengths. Then we need to surround ourselves with not only like-minded people, but people that are strong where you are weak. It's the only way you get to your highest potential. And so we need to identify who you need on your team. And those don't need to be experts or billionaires or professionals. It could be your secretary that has a certain skill, or somebody in your family that is good with taxes and numbers and you're not, right? Whatever it is. So you need to identify that. So that's step number 2. And it's crucial because when you have your purpose and your passion and your fire, and now you have a plan, you suddenly, every obstacle becomes an opportunity and a stepping stone that brings you closer to your goals and your dreams. So you're going to be relentless. You're going to be waking up wanting to attack that day. And so that's the difference between having a purpose. If somebody, meets an obstacle, usually the arms go up in the air. Oh my God, it's not meant to be, or I can't do this, I'm giving up. Now, I usually compare it with the 110 meters hurdles, or for the women, the 100 meters hurdles. You got those 10 hurdles, but these athletes know where the end is. So obviously they attack those hurdles. But that could be you. If you know what the end is and how far away it is, you're going to attack those hurdles, right? And so that's the plan. That's the strategy. You need your team of experts. And often the team of experts, I always recommend, needs a coach or a mentor like you or like myself or a functional medicine doctor, somebody that has been there before, that can show you the pitfalls and that can make you accountable on a daily or weekly basis. So that's step number 2. And then step number 3 is actually the biohacking, the upgrading your body and your mind and your life. But here we're going to really hone in on the mind, because we already are regaining control of our health and doing the supplements and the diet and working on checking the toxemia. We are already upgrading our life by taking control and getting clear on our calendar and the things that do not contribute to our life, and how to stay focused and how to avoid procrastination. And we have a coach and we have a mentor. So we're doing that. But now step number 3 is mostly upgrading your mind, because as you know, the mind is the blueprint to whatever's going to happen. Our mind creates our destiny. So we need to start taking control of that. And most people have zero control over that, because our beliefs, for example, they are just thoughts that we keep on thinking. So if you know that a belief is a thought that you keep on thinking, that also means that you can change it at any time, right? That's number 1. Number 2, we need to really start working on that belief system in a ways that once we have our purpose, we have our plan, we have our strategy, and we know where the finish line is and exactly what we want to accomplish, we need to really tap into our brain and our mind and make sure there is no doubt that we will succeed. Because a lot of people have doubt. And when we have doubt in our mind, the universe certainly has 2 options: failure or success. If we have no doubt in our mind, because we have control of our life, we know our goals, we know the obstacles, we got our team together, we're working on it every day, there's no doubt, then the universe only has one option: a big win, right? So, and then we teach people things like keeping the end in mind, visualization, fasting. And those are all types of things that even to me in the past were very difficult, because obviously just like you were into the athletes and fitness and performance. We were very body oriented, right? So for me, a decade ago, when somebody said you need to work on your mind, I believed it because I've seen examples, and especially looking at Joe Dispenza and those types of people, and people that are actually able to heal themselves from cancer and Parkinson's just with their mind. It's hard to refute the power of the mind. But for me, it was very hard to do meditation and try it a few times and continue while I'm not seeing any results, right? But today, there's so many technologies available that will facilitate you getting into that zone or tapping into a certain brainwave or being able to clear your mind and staying focused on a task. We're talking about certain nootropics. We're talking about the brain tap, binaural beats, music, all types of things that facilitate actually the average person within a few weeks to experience something they never experienced. And once you see that something's working, you obviously want to further yourself into those things and master it. Because I tell you, once you master that mind, you're a winner. And that's why in sports, I usually look at Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. They were always in the zone, never distracted. But if you look at other people on the same field, so we're talking about NBA players, NFL players, top golfers, people say, oh, they had a good game or a bad game, or, their performance was good or bad, or their head wasn't in the game. And it's exactly that, their head wasn't in the game. So why do they have a great game today and a bad game tomorrow? Their physical capabilities didn't diminish. Their talent didn't go away overnight, right? Their strength didn't disappear. Their skills didn't disappear. So what's the difference? The difference is between the ears, right? For some reason, they were unable to get into the zone, meaning they were distracted by what? Maybe they had an argument earlier that day with their significant other, something going on with the kids. The dad's in the hospital, some financial burden, who knows, but they were distracted, right? So the key is to take control over that and master the ability or the skill to get into the zone on the mat, no matter what's going on around you. And so that's what I teach people to do so they can be more productive and Step number three is really unleashing your superpower. You mentioned it, like a lot of people don't know their purpose in life. Some of them do, but they're barely tapping into it. So we got to take it a step further. We need to not just step into it, we need to really unleash that power, unleash that beast, because especially in today's world, we need all of your superpowers.
Yeah, what 100%. I am so with you. I love everything you're saying there. And I think that what happens is a lot of times there's these either self-limiting or environment, I don't want to say the environment's limiting you because that takes you out of there. But yeah, we don't understand our full potential, and to really be self-actualized, to really understand that sense of purpose and being in the zone, to me personally, it feels like I'm the most lit up when I am sharing what I'm passionate about, when I'm doing what I know that I'm here to do, when I'm fulfilling that. There's just this sense of self-satisfaction, this sense of calm and peace. And I'm a pretty hyper guy, right?
Yeah.
But this sense of just being in the zone, knowing my purpose and sharing that fire with the world. And I agree with you. I think that that's what this world needs more of. Everybody has a passion. Everybody has a gift. Everybody has something to give, but not everybody's giving, right? And and I don't even want to say I don't want to say it's not their fault, but in a way it's not, just because they don't understand. They haven't taken the time or done the work to understand what that passion is or that purpose is, and then to do the steps, the work that it takes to actually get to the place that you're talking about, right? Where you can be in the zone on demand, and then upgrade and just unleash your superpowers on the world, because that's really when we're living at our maximum potential, right?
Yeah. And it's never too late, right? Because we're at the over 50 health and wellness. It's never too late.
Exactly.
Because even if you had a career, and even if you're about to retire or you're retired, you can find a new purpose. Suddenly you got a lot more free time. So why waste it? Maybe now you really got to go even dig deeper, because now you do have the time. And there's so many people that need help, right? And we're all social beings. So even though we may not know our we all know how it feels, how we actually make ourselves feel better by just opening the door of a store for an older person. Just doing that 1 second action makes you feel better. Yes, you're doing that person a favor, but you're doing yourself a bigger favor. So if you can scale that with something that you like to do, in your case, sharing this type of information and, motivating people to try to better themselves, then you're only bettering yourself. That's what people don't realize. By helping others, you mostly help yourself, because we're social beings, and that's what feeds our positive feelings, our positive emotions. We want to feel joy and happiness and gratitude and kindness and those types of things. We want to get away from fear and worry and jealousy and those types of things. Yeah.
Very, very beautifully spoken. I love all of that. And I really like the way that you talk about this is a perfect time in somebody's life. If you're listening to this, you're in your 50s, your 60s, your 70s. This is the perfect time. If you're like, holy moly, I've lived my entire life without being in touch with this, this is the perfect time to start. So for a lot of us, myself, like I spent my whole life in a corporate career, and I don't, it may be what I am today. So I'm not looking back with any kind of regret, but 100% was not self-actualized, was not fulfilled, was not living my purpose. And I am now, just in these recent last few years, right? And for most of us, we have these big life changes, right? A lot of times kids are leaving the house. We're considering retirement. There's, we have the 50s and the 60s and 70-year-old birthdays. There's all these milestones in our life that are perfect opportunities for looking inward and for discovering these types of things that you're talking about, for doing these acts of service, because really that's where joy comes from. We can get temporary happiness from just having our needs fulfilled. But when we actually are giving and giving in a meaningful way, that's what brings this kind of joy that you ended up talking about right there. So absolutely love that you talk about it's not too late, and now is actually the perfect time to start, I would submit. So Dr. Mike, let's switch gears here just a little bit. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the future. And specifically, I want to talk about the future of, because you talked about things like, nootropics, and we mentioned peptides earlier. You mentioned a lot of kind of cutting edge sort of technology here. You mentioned binaural beats, all these fun productivity hacks. Where do you think the future is in technology and medicine? Let's say, what's kind of cool from this biohacking perspective, anti-aging, productivity hacks? What's do you feel is right around the corner? And what do you think is possible in the next 5 to 10 years? And I know that's pure speculation, right? Because there's so much happening, but what do you see in the near future here for specifically for biohacking?
Yeah, well, there's a theoretical model, and then there's my opinion, and then there's also the pros and the cons of biohacking, in my opinion, right? So, in the February issue of 2011, which has been a while ago, of Time magazine, it had these big letters on it, 2045. 2045 would be the year of singularity, meaning we become ageless. But ageless in the cover magazine was we would be able to live to 142 years old healthy. So that's the theoretical model that it's calculated very precisely, okay? So that's the theory. What I see happening is not necessarily living to 142, but because I don't really care about chronological age, but it's about lifespan. So what I see is that even the people that are listening now, 50, 60, 70, don't think that because you stopped working at 65 that your life's over and you're just waiting to die. No, because you easily can become 100 if you take care of yourself, and your lifespan can be 30. I believe that the new 100 can be the 30. In other words, you are going to be chronologically 100 years of age, but you can still go travel. You can even go ski, or you can run that 5K every weekend, or whatever it is that you like to do. So imagine you being 100, but you have the biological body of a 30-year-old, and you can do the functions and activities of a 30-year-old. At that point, it's worth living, and it's worth being, still alive, right? If you are 30 mentally and physically speaking, biological age. And I think that is today that is possible because science fiction really has caught up with science fact. So if you implement all these strategies and go through those 3 phases and really start trying to reverse your biological age with hyperbaric oxygen, with stem cell therapies, with infusion therapies, with nootropics, with the right supplements, and doing the right basic things, which is healthy air, healthy water, healthy diet, because without the basics, nothing else is going to work, then I do believe you will be 100 and feeling like 30, 40. I believe that is realistic today, which is good news, I think. The other thing is, I still think it's one of my a little bit of my worry is there is evil and good on this planet, right? And so it's with anything new, it could be used in a good way, could be used in a bad way. So in the biohacking space, there's basically 3 steps. The first one is called biomodulation, which basically means is we're going to incorporate a small lifestyle change, such as an ice bath or an infrared sauna or a high quality supplement that minimally improves your bodily functions. Okay, so that's the first and lowest step of biohacking, is just a lifestyle modification that benefits you. Number 2 is a bioenhancement. Those are mostly external compounds or factors that give a more drastic change to our body and our mind. So now we're thinking about stem cell therapies or bioidentical hormones, because your hormones are genetically programmed, right? They are programmed, and after a certain age, they drastically declines. The quantity and quality of your stem cells at certain ages, or as we age, drastically declines too. But with bioidentical hormone replacement therapy or stem cell therapies, we can now go beyond our genetic programming. So those 2 are examples of bioenhancement. And then the third one is biotransformation. Examples are, for example, pacemakers. It's where we basically interface our human body with technology. And sometimes it's good, like cochlear implants for people with deafness, or computer chips in the brains of Parkinson's patients to help with their debilitating effects, or bionic limbs for people that lost their limbs. And those bionic limbs today operate with greater efficiency and effectiveness than our biological limbs, right? But that leads into transhumanism, where we're gonna become more robot than human. And so when we talk about biohacking, I suggest biomodulation, bioenhancement. I would be careful with biotransformation.
Be careful with biotransformation. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That does seem to be, to me, also scary. It does seem the way we're going, right? I mean, you can see what's available today, what's coming around the corner, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see where that goes. Well, Dr. Mike, thanks for sharing that. What's next for you personally? What's on the horizon for you? What projects do you have that you're looking
Well, yeah,
forward
my
to?
book came out. Well, yeah, my book came out, and so my app came out too. So people can download my app on their smart device. It's Biohacking Unlimited app, and so I really want to reach more people. I have different programs in place now. So I have mentorship programs, 3 mentorship programs. I have an app. I do motivational speaking. I do online training. And I have a VIP retreat coming up in Costa Rica over Labor Day weekend. Only 30 spots all the way in the jungle. So it's a transformational week. So I'm organizing and continue to train and coach people just like you to try to get more people on our side, making the right choices and, increase that collective consciousness of happy and healthy.
I absolutely love that mission. All right. Well, so folks that are listening to this and think, yeah, I want to know more about this and want to connect with you, where would you like to send?
Well, the central place is just my website is biohackingunlimited.com. You have the QR code for my app there, which is also called Biohacking Unlimited. You can download it obviously from the App Store too. On the website, you have an others page with all links to you have a speakers page. You have a mentorship page with the different mentorship programs. You have the Costa Rica VIP trip. And you also currently, maybe not forever, but there's a free 20-minute Zoom call. So if you click on it, my calendar pops up and you can schedule a 20-minute free Zoom call with myself, no cost. And during the Zoom call, we just talk to see where you are, what you want to accomplish, and see if I can help in any way, shape, or form.
Fantastic. And folks, I will put all of that into the show notes. Again, you can find that there. Dr. Mike, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing all of your wisdom, your knowledge, and certainly your passion for this subject with us. I think the work you're doing is incredible, and I encourage you just to keep up the great work.
Well, I think the same thing, because it's people like you and their passion and hosting the podcast that we can get the word out. So this is a team effort, so I appreciate your efforts and time also.
Okay, that's our show for today, folks. If you've enjoyed this podcast, I want to let you know that we have lots of great free resources over at silveredgefree.com. There you'll find free guides with our top tips on nutrition, exercise, and healthy lifestyle to assist you in your weight loss and fitness journey. So feel free to head over there and download anything that looks useful to you. I'll put links to everything we talked about in the show notes, and you can find that over at silveredgefitness.com/176. As we wrap up our time together today, you can show your support for this show in 2 important ways. One is to tell a friend about this podcast and encourage them to give it a listen. The second is for you YouTube folks to click the like and subscribe buttons, and for you podcast folks to consider giving this podcast a 5-star review on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on, and be sure to subscribe and follow so you don't miss any future episodes. I really appreciate you spending your time with me today, and until next time, stay strong.